Hello again, it's Joe the Gunsmith at Alpha 1 Drop Zone. I'll show you a little bit more on the BM-59s, but first I'd like to say something about Alpha 1 Drop Zone. If you're a resident of Kansas in the area, be sure to drop in and see us. If you're traveling through, drop in and see us on your way coming and going. One of the largest surplus stores in the Midwest, very veteran oriented, sales help are courteous and knowledgeable. And I think you'd have a good time just looking around. So make sure you come in and see us if you're in the area. And now I'm going to break a couple of these BM-59s down, show you a little bit of the difference between the American versions and the Italian versions. And of course, if you're building kits now, these are questions that are being asked on the internet. Hopefully it'll help you out a little bit. I'm no expert on every little detail, ins and outs, production of the Berettas and the American versions. I've just owned them since I was a young man and had a lot of experience with them in that way. As we talked earlier, there's a difference in the stock configuration. Of course, this stock's been glass bedded, and this one hasn't. And it's just the relief cuts they made for the full auto parts on the Italian version, which your grand stocks don't have the relief cuts. Basically, to modify a grand stock, you just cut out the front here for the magazine to be able to go in and come out. I'll move these out of the way. Get my pin punch. Yeah. You can see you have a bent op rod on the American style, and you have a different op rod spring guide and a different clip guide or bullet guide than what you do on the Beretta model. Oops. The Beretta model, they took the gas cylinder down. You see the gap between it compared to the Grand, which doesn't have a gap. So they could use a straight op rod, and it gave them room to put the grenade launcher cut off on it to where it turns it into a single shot when you fold this up, so you can launch grenades, not have any of the gas being used to operate the system. The BM-62 models and some of the BM-69 models were commercial versions of the BM-59 that were sold in the 60s. That's what the 62 stands for, 1962, and the 69 stands for 1969. They eliminated the cuts for the gas to be cut off, and they have the grenade launcher sight on there. They eliminated that, and you just had flat-sided gas cylinder with no holes cut for that. And when you see those 62s that don't have this assembly on there, that's the reason why, because they didn't need the grenade launcher on it. They didn't need the indirect sight, which I don't have attached to this, but the indirect sight fit on the side so you could launch it from the buttstock being on the ground instead of on your shoulder. This is only good for when it's on your shoulder, which some of the heavier NATO grenades, it was quite a punishing recoil to hit your shoulder with. The World War II type grenades were lighter, and you could fire them from your shoulder without dislocating your collarbone. The major difference that you're going to run into when you're using an M1 Grand receiver that's been milled out is you have to decide whether you want to use the front clip catch Beretta style, which you have to mill the receiver out and cut slots in it so this slides in, and it has a catch here to hold the front of the magazine. The American style, the op rod spring guide would hold the front of the magazine, and you put the bullet guide in, and that took up your extra space and also allowed you to use the standard Garand pin. So you don't have to do any milling on the front of your receiver here for that you have to do to fit the Beretta bullet or clip guide in. These parts, different configurations depending on what magazine they were using. This one's set up to take an M14 magazine, so it's a little bit different than the ones that were set up to take the Beretta magazine. It has a little bit different cut on it. And of course the charger guide has an extra cut in it. A little key slot there. Just a round hole. That's so you had a little tit there that fit into the M14 magazine like that. Where the Beretta magazine just has a little shelf on there, and it would fit like that. Hold the front of the magazine in. And that's the major difference on the op rod gas cylinder assembly. And there's been pros and cons throughout the years of which is better. If you're going to look at it like, where am I going to get replacement parts for my gas cylinder, or wears out and I can't find a Beretta gas cylinder. Beretta gas cylinder has also always been more costly than what the standard Garand gas cylinder is. If that's a consideration, and maybe the American style is better for you, to me it's apple and oranges. I like both of them. I do like the fact that when you have a rifle like this, of course this has got an aftermarket ram line stock on it that was modified to take the Beretta magazine. These are lightweight, they're easy to handle in the woods. If you're going to use it for hunting, you don't really need a flash hider or grenade launcher or anything. They're a little bit more practical for your use if you're just going to use it for sporting purposes and you're not really a military fanatic or collector. It's basically up to you and the talents of whatever gunsmith or shop that you're dealing with to do your modifications. As far as fixing your trigger housing up to take a M14 magazine, this is what Golden State Arms and National Ordnance did. They just milled out a whole new front piece there and brazed it onto the Garand trigger housing, and it would support the M14 magazine, so it wouldn't wobble around. Some of the modifications they're doing today to take the M14 magazine, they don't put the shelf on, they just use the standard Garand trigger housing face, and of course the magazine has a little bit of play because there's no shelf there for the back plate of the magazine to slide into and fit. Like I said, it's really up to you and your gunsmith and your talents and what you want to do. As long as you understand that you need that part there and you need a rod like this, you won't have any problems with your modification. I guess that's about all I can say about that, but we'll kind of end this segment right there and start up on some of these other parts over here and show you the little tricks of the trade to make those work. Thanks.